All right, y'all. Come on. Hey, this is Dr. K.L. Rich for Narc Abuse No More, where we help people admit what they feel in order to heal from the effects of narcissistic abuse. How is everyone doing today on this Wednesday? By the time you hear this, I'm saying Wednesday, Lord, it's Friday. By the time you hear this podcast. All right, it is April the 26th. By the time this podcast airs, bear with me. Y'all know I'm a little special on here. All right, this is Narcissistic Abuse No More, where we're here to help people admit what they feel in order to heal from the effects of narcissistic abuse, because your feelings do matter. Yes, they do. But before we go on with today's podcast, I would like to invite you to visit us on our website at www.narcabusenomore.org. Again, that website address is www.narcabusenomore.org. And on our website, you'll find valuable information regarding narcissism, relationships, and if you have missed any of these podcasts, all you have to do is go directly to the website and listen to it from there. Now, just to let you know, we're on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central, and that is on SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play, iTunes, Castbox, and Deezer. We're also on Amazon Audible, Rumble, Brighteon, and the Tube. That's right, we're on YouTube, and I'm now uploading onto Facebook for Facebook followers. So again, that website address is www.narcabusenomore.org. Now, I know Apple is my highest ratings for this podcast, so thanks to my Apple followers as well as the other platforms, but Apple is the highest ratings right now for this particular podcast, so thank you all very, very much. All right, well, we had announced that we were going to have our author Ieisha Gilliam, and it was a high rating podcast the last time we had her on the show, talking about her new book, Marriage. What I'm talking about. We talk about marriage today, but the book is called Closing Doors for a Purpose. Closing Doors for a Purpose. And so I am happy to have Ieisha back with us. How you doing, Ieisha, today?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am good, blessed, highly favored, and trying to keep my energy hyped. Yes. And
we got this.
yes, we do. We definitely do. And so I pray that you all have been able to go and purchase the book. And if you have not purchased it, you can go to different platforms such as Walmart, Amazon, Lulu.com, Barnes and Noble. Is there anything any platform that I'm missing for this particular book?
No, you covered them all.
Okay. So you can go to your favorite one and get the book. Is called Closing Doors for a Purpose. Closing Doors for a Purpose. And if you did not catch the first interview, you really want to catch that first interview. And we had a good time and just discussing the things that were in the book. And I just want to go over a few of the subtitles that Ieisha has in the book, because this is about her own life, and she talked about lying and promiscuity, suicide, marriage, in which we're going to talk about a lot today, sickness, homelessness, forgiveness, and what God calls me. And so I want to just allow Ieisha to just talk about the reason and what this book is about, the reason she wrote the book, the purpose, and what she wants you as the reader to be able to take from the book.
Well, the purpose was to help someone else, because everybody has their own individual stories, and everybody has gone through a whole lot individually upon their own selves. But a lot of people don't take the time to get help, to get counseling, or even to find ways to free themselves from the things of the past, because some past things that people have gone through causes trauma. And if you don't know how to navigate through that trauma to get some type of resources, assistance, along with prayer, or finding something to kind of help you navigate through the traumas of your life, then you will be lost, and it will keep you in a place of depression. It will keep you in a place of low self-esteem, or whatever the case may be. So when God mandated me to do this book, I was like I said on the last one, no, it's embarrassing, I didn't want to tell my story.
Right.
But he just basically showed me that the story is not for you. It's to help somebody else. So I was able to just go ahead and put myself aside and just write this book to help somebody else. Because you never know. And a lot of people can have empathy on your story because they've gone through the same things, but they don't know how to get delivered from a lot of things. So that's one main reason why I was able to put out the book the way that I did, with the help of the Lord, and be able to help free other people, because I've received a lot of testimonies about the book. And okay, Mama, I've received a lot of testimonies about the book and how it helps everyone.
Amen. Amen. And that's her little one you hear. Her name is Ieisha too. How old is little Ieisha?
She is 15 months.
15 months.
12 years old. But she's 15 months.
15 months. And so if you hear her in the background, there's her little baby, her precious little baby girl there. And Aisha is the mother of 3. And so that's her newest addition to the family, little Aisha. So today, when you talk about basically freeing yourself, and when you wrote this book, it was I'm going to just say, I'm sure it was liberating for you being able to write it. Some things I'm sure you were where you had to relive a lot of the things that you had gone through. But as you mentioned, it was because God had ordained for this for you to do. He wanted you to share your story with other people, and you have said that people were blessed by it. And I know that people can relate to a lot of what you have written in the book. I know that people that I counsel, they have some similar stories as well. And so I'm glad that God allowed you to share that, because you share some things that's not easy to share with other people, and everyone doesn't have that courage, that boldness to be able to share those private things. But you did that out of obedience to God, and so praise God for your obedience. And today we're going to focus in on one of the chapters that Ieisha wrote in her book, and it's dealing with marriage. And she has been married 3 times, and she talks a lot about the different marriages that she had, and different things that took place in those marriages. And so we're going to just talk about some of those things today, and we're going to just label them husband A, husband B, husband C. You can get the books and have more details about those particular relationships. But I want to focus in today on, first of starting off with husband A. And we often get married. I've never been married, but I always wanted to be married. But a lot of times we don't really understand what actually goes into marriages. As we grow up as kids, we often maybe look at the fairy tales and living happily ever after. And so, and so, so Aisha, when you think about maybe Disney, Beauty and the Beast, and Snow White and 7 Dwarfs, and you always got the Prince Charming, what would you say? How close is that to the real thing about marriage?
They need to stop giving people these phones.
Wow.
Stop it. And the crazy part is, I'm a hopeless romantic. So when I see movies like that, I'm like, oh, I wish that was me.
I think we all have. You know, you see, especially around the holidays, the Hallmark movies and stuff. Now, I think I've gotten to where I'm kind of I like them, but I think the Hallmark Grinch, okay? Because I'm like, okay, real life isn't like this. And I think they set little girls up I'm getting my Prince Charming and we're going to live happily ever after and all of that. And I'm like, boo hoo. Okay.
So you grow up as a child thinking, oh my, he's gonna come right in on the horse, he's gonna do this, he's gonna do that. He didn't ride on no skateboards.
They say he was riding on some duds, okay? And
A cap on one wheel and it's like what in the foolishness. But the reality is marriage is nowhere near all of that. Maybe in the end, the longest I've been married is 10 years, will be 11 years. But I've heard stories like people being married 25 years, 40 years, 50 years, and stuff like that. But when you're married to someone, you change every 7 to 10 years.
right.
To be married to multiple people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the fairy tale of marriage is not, it's reality.
Right.
Covenant.
Right.
People, they be so excited and want to get married and this and that, this and that. But I mean, marriage is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. When it's going good, but when it's going bad, do you remember your vows? When your marriage is not going right, do you remember your vows? When your spouse is sick or when you're sick, do you remember your vows? When you're going through financial difficulties, do you remember your vows? Or are you just doing it just to say that I have a spouse?
Right. And one of the things that God is the one that ordained marriage. And so we have so far removed from the idea of what God had established, and is more so of he looks good or she got a fine body or this and that. But God created marriage for purpose, kingdom purpose. And so when He created Adam and then He created Eve, it wasn't just to say, oh, I got a side chick or whatever case may be, because it was no side chicks. It was for them to be have a union that represented Christ.
Right.
And so we have moved so far away from that in modern day society, where people are swinging, cheating, infidelity, all these different things. And we have to bring it back to what did God originally intend for marriage to be. So I want to address husband A in your book. And but before we get to that, how old were you when you first got married?
When I first got married, I was 19, and actually, no, I just turned 20, so I was 20 years old when I first got married. And my first husband A, he was 10 years older than I was.
Okay.
I met him shortly after I got out of the military, and um, we were okay, but the biggest issue that we were having, and his maturity level was more, better than mine. He was real cool, real smart man, treated me good and everything like that, but I couldn't take the infidelity. And that happened quite a bit, to the point, not just infidelity and I'm sorry, it's infidelity and I'm bringing something home. And I'm not talking about an STD, I'm talking about children,
Wow.
So I couldn't take that, because at the time in my life, I was told that I couldn't have any children. So it bothered me, and accepting one is fine, but accepting 2 and then 3 and all this other stuff, then it becomes a problem, because now, you're not caring about my feelings and knowing that I want children, or knowing that, this is not fair to me, that I have to steal because it's not the children's fault. So I have to still be there in the moment, and treat them as if, you know, which they are his, but treat them like they're mine.
Right.
So
So
it became a stressful situation for me, and I couldn't do it anymore.
so how did you two first meet?
Well, like I said, I had just got out the military, and I think it was maybe like a month after I got out. And the military, it tones your body up real good, honey. So
Yes, it does.
I was looking good, but I actually, a friend of mine stayed on one street, the same street my mother stayed on. And how we ended up becoming friends, I used to date her brother. Well, when I got out the military, her brother was dating somebody else, so but me and her stayed friends. Well, my husband A, he stayed next door to her, and he was talking to her about me, and she introduced us together, and it went from there.
Okay. So what actually when you met him, what drew you to him?
He was charming, he was funny, and he was real intelligent. He was a hustler. So, and he was also, uh, a drug dealer. But at the time when I met him, he didn't show me that he was a drug dealer. But he was very charming. He was respectful. He was funny, and he always made me laugh. So that drew me to him. And every time I asked him for something, he always went above and beyond to get it. If he couldn't get it right then and there, by the time even a month over with, I was spoiled with whatever I asked for. So I didn't have a problem with, him in that area. And we were cool, and I even right now today I still conversate with him every once in a while just to check on and see how he's doing and vice versa. But it's nothing like that. We just have to forgive and move on. And but he was really cool. And that's what drew me to him was his personality. He
Okay.
was the
And
type
you
of person that anybody, could talk to him, he'd crack a joke, and he was just real charming. He knew how to charm you really good.
and then it seemed like you felt like you had a sense of security with
Yeah,
him in that.
yeah,
Okay, financially and at least in the beginning, for the relationship itself.
yes, yes.
Okay.
I didn't have a problem. I mean, we had some down times, when we were transitioning because we did move, out of state from Illinois, and that's where I met him. He's originally from Arkansas. But I met him. He stayed in Illinois, in East St. Louis, because he did have a son in St. Louis, and he ended up moving here with his son's mother, but they didn't work out, so he just stayed to be close to his child. And at that time, he only had one child. So, and by the time we were done, he had multiple children.
So you were with him and he kept having child after child after child. So what exactly during that time made you stay?
Because I was really in love with him.
Okay.
I really was in love with him, and he wouldn't. And one thing that was different compared to everybody else, he wouldn't come with no sad story saying, I did this because you did this. And basically turn the tables like some narcissists do. He
Mm-hmm.
would never turn the tables on me, saying I didn't do this right, or I wasn't cooking enough, or I didn't keep the house clean, or I didn't have enough sex with him, or whatever the case may be. He never turned that against me. He was so honest with me. I had no other choice but to stay. But he was just like, that girl, I'm sorry, but I fell off and slept with this person, blah, 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 blah. And I'll be mad, I'll be upset, and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And won't talk to him for a few days or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, and during that time, that was still my husband. I had to forgive him.
Okay.
And so, and that's just me being who I was then,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I was young. I was
Mm-hmm.
in my early 20s, had somebody older than me. And I just constantly forgave until the burden of the children start hurting my heart.
Hmm. So what qualities did you think you knew about him but found out differently that you thought he was, but then found out he wasn't in a relationship?
Huh. Um, faithful for one.
I would say,
That's one thing for sure.
right,
I thought he would be faithful. But in my mind, being stupid, I thought he would be faithful. Like, oh, he a bigger dude, blah 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 blah. He's a tall guy, and he was real heavy set, but he was a big dude. And I was like, oh, nobody want him but me. And he moved.
he had community pain, huh?
I was the only one that wanted him. I mean, he wasn't no ugly man. He was actually handsome.
Right.
Big dude. But honey, that charming attitude of his, he can get any girl he want. It don't matter about the size.
Right.
So
Okay.
I was so naive in that area, thinking like, oh, I got this, I got him, and now, honey, I didn't have him. And then but the faithfulness, I thought that he would be, you know. And during that time, I blame myself a lot because actually during that time, I was really, really sick with him. I used to have seizures all the time. So a lot of it, when I was out for 2-3 days, sometimes weeks at a time, I wasn't able to, uh, have sex with him or do what I need to do as a wife or whatever the case may be. But in the same time, he was still taking care of me. But he would drop me off at my mom's house, and I'll be back, that girl, blah blah blah, and I get to do what he do, and then come back and take care of me. It wasn't right then. It ain't right now, but I thought that he would be faithful. That's one of the qualities that I thought that he would have that
So
he didn't really possess then.
So, what lessons did you take from it then, and what do you feel like you can use to apply now, if there's anything at all from what you went through with him? And we're not getting into everything. So, for those who are listening to this podcast, you definitely have to get the book because we're just scanning the surface of things right now. And so, but what would you say that your main lesson from being in relationship with husband number A or husband A is?
Boundaries.
Boundaries, right?
And that's for all everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't set enough boundaries, because I let him do so much in that area, infidelity. I let him do so much in that area so I didn't have any boundaries. And then he got comfortable for him. It got comfortable for him to do it, and then I took him back, and I was like, okay, I forgive you, and I wasn't mad for long or whatever the case may be, and everything went back to normal. But when I got fed up, it's like I just dropped the ball and just said, you know what, I'm done, and left. So set them boundaries. You're like, okay, you're not going to do this anymore to me. You're not going to keep treating me this way or disrespecting me or whatever the case may be. Well, when you set those boundaries with people, but with him, it was setting that boundary like, this is your one and only chance. I'll forgive you this time. I'm not going to forgive you that easily the next time. Even though we have to forgive, but if I would have put my foot down after the first incident, I wouldn't have had to go through multiple incidents.
And one thing is important to understand though is that even though you forgive someone doesn't mean that you have to allow them to continue whatever the abuse or the infidelity or whatever the case may be. And sometimes people can get that confused with, oh, I forgive you, but then I'm allowing you to come back in and re-traumatize me, re-damage, the
Right.
relationship and everything. But it's so important for, like, as you mentioned, to set boundaries. Oftentimes people, especially women, will go into a relationship and they'll say, oh, if he cheat on me once, but no, what about saying no, cheat on me never? You know?
Exactly.
Yes,
You about that? Yes, yes, ma'am.
right. Cheat on me
So,
never. And then that way, yeah, because we're normally, most women, will probably say, okay, I'm a forgiving individual, but then forgiving doesn't mean that I'm going to give you a get out of jail free card. So as you mentioned, those boundaries are very important to have going into the relationship, saying that, this is something that I would not accept, I would not tolerate it, and should you cross this at any given time, then we're going to have an issue, and that issue I would not be staying under no
right,
circumstances. And,
right.
and, and that's important to have. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
It is very important. And I wanted to just put this in here. Um, maturity in the mind makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I want that's mature because the lifestyle that we lived, he and I, the lifestyle that we lived allowed me to say, okay, I'm gonna forgive you. But if we were together now and he were to do that foolishness now, oh baby, honey, I'm gonna be praying hard.
Right.
Oh, and
And that's important, as you mentioned, maturity, because a lot of times we accept things when we're younger. Myself, I say I was young and dumb, things that I should not have tolerated, accepted. And that maturity level is very important. And also the being able to, that confidence in yourself, knowing your value, knowing who you are, knowing your worth, your self-worth, is important to say, you know what, that I value myself, to know that I deserve better than this. And I think a lot of times people end up in relationships because they feel as if this is the best that I could do, or this is the best that I deserve, or this is the best that I'm going to ever be able to get or achieve. And that's not so. But it's important to see that within yourself, because if you don't, then anyone will be able to take advantage of you. Yes. And
they will
so,
pride on your vulnerability.
right,
People will pride on it.
exactly.
That just not go for men doing it to women. That goes for women doing it to men also.
Right,
But
exactly.
they will pride on your vulnerability. They'll pride on your character and things of that nature. And if they see that and they know how to manipulate you, if you're not intelligent in, i.e., for example, street smarts. If you get somebody book smart and don't have any street smarts and try to go out there and you can sell them a car if they ain't got no you can sell them a car that don't have no batteries or no tires.
Right,
They ain't got
right.
no street smarts.
Right. Because the one thing when it comes to, even when we talk about abuse, and you talk about people that it doesn't discriminate, economic wise, as you mentioned, education wise, it can be gender. It doesn't discriminate, race, sex. It doesn't discriminate, and so anyone could fall prey to being a victim of abuse if they are not even knowing. Sometimes people don't even know that they're actually being abused, because even when it's, we often know for it's the physical, and you went through some of that with him, and you all can read more about that in the book. Ieisha went through some physical abuse, and with husband A. And so not only was it the physical abuse, but it was also the emotional abuse, when the infidelity with the cheating, and this child, each another child, but oh, I love you, but that's emotional abuse and everything. And so there's different forms of abuse that we're going to talk about some of this later, but there's different forms of abuse, and some of that she went through with husband A. But the good thing is that you survived.
I survived that one.
You survived. We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
I would like to take a moment and talk about something that needs a lot of attention these days. And that's a relationship between a husband and a wife. In this day and time with the divorce rate at 50% and people are trading husbands and wives like you trade cars or something, we've got to do better. Many of us have children involved and they don't know which way to go between mom and dad. We got to hang in there. We need to show love, give a kind answer, know how to say I love you, I'm sorry. Remember those words? Now, when you first try this, I know your husband or wife might say, okay, what you up to? I know you want something, that's why you're acting different. But as you continue to show love, love begets love. Try it. You know, many of us get married for the wrong reason. Ooh, child, don't he look good? He could be the worst thing in a pair of pants, you know that? It's not what's on the outside, it's what's in the inside, what's in his heart. That's what it's about. We gotta think about that. Think about our relationships, our families. I was watching a television program and they were interviewing a young lady. And she was upset because all of her classmates were making fun of her because she was 15 years old and a virgin. Where have we gone? It wasn't too long ago when if you were 15 years old and sexually active, you were the strange one. We as parents have to encourage our young people to save themselves for their marriages. First of all, we gotta live a life in front of them. Well, before I preach, let me get back to my subject. I think back on the time when I was praying to get married. And see, I believe it's until death do you part. So I didn't trust my decision because I could marry the woman and she could go crazy tomorrow. And I would just be there because see, I'm not going anywhere, you know? Well, I prayed and I prayed and I believe God opened up the windows of heaven. Let an angel out on loan for a while in the form of my wife, Brenda. We got married back in February of 1978 in a little church down in South Jersey. The snow was coming down real slow. We sung a song to each other, and right now, wherever you are, we want you to bundle up and travel back in time with us as we bring to you what happened that day.
The closer I get to you, the more you make me see. God's given us such a love, and it has captured me.
Over and over again, I prayed for one like you to be with me till the end. And all the while inside I knew he would hear, 'cause you're the answer to my prayer.
I'm thanking God for our love. Oh, thank you, Jesus, because it's like a dream come true. And I feel so full inside with love from God and you.
The sweeter and sweeter love grows, and heaven only knows the happiness we will share. You know I'll have a glimpse of heaven's joy, having you here by my side. Over and over again, I prayed for one like you to be with me till the end. would
I
hear.
knew he
'Cause you're
would
the
hear.
answer.
You're the answer to my prayer.
Thank you,
Lord,
thank you, Lord.
thank you,
Lord.
I just want to thank
You, Lord.
I just want to thank you, Lord. We just want to thank you.
And that is Phil and Brenda Nicholas, The Closer I Get to You. And one thing that is so important is to be close to God before you be close to anyone else. And when you have that relationship with God, then allow Him to be the one to direct you in dating as well as a marriage, a potential marriage. Because sometimes God might say, and and we many of us have made mistakes in the dating scene. I've never been married, but I was planning on it, and God saved me from what would have been an international disaster. He wound up going to prison for child pornography, and so I thank God that I didn't wind up with that person. That I could have had the same story or similar story that that many women have had or have haven't gone through divorce with children and things of that nature. But I was just one of the blessed ones to that God protected me. But the thing is that we've all made mistakes. And one thing that the Bible says is that we all have sinned and fallen short of God's glory. I'm not perfect. I'm striving toward the prize, but I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. No one is perfect. And I'm grateful that Ieisha has come on this program to discuss this book, and it's called Closing Doors for a Purpose. Closing Doors for a Purpose, because sometimes God would close those doors and you knocking and banging, because I wish you was knocking and banging, but He closed that door. And so I just thank God for that. So Ieisha, are you still with me? Ieisha, are you still with me? All right.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you. Okay, okay,
Oh, okay.
okay.
I was just laughing at you and I was on mute.
Okay, okay, just making sure I didn't lose her. Okay, but yeah, sometimes we just banging and banging and banging, and I was like that. And I look back, I say it is not one person that I ever went out with or dated that I would want to be married to today. Thank God for saving me from my own foolishness. Okay. Yes, so but so next we're going into husband B, and tell us a little bit about how did the two of you meet and go from there.
Okay. Well, I sing, so I used to do a lot of karaoke and singing background for people and things of that nature. So I met husband B at karaoke, and he's so funny. But I met him at karaoke. He's a singer also and has a very nice voice, and we clicked as far as singing and things of that nature. And over time, he eventually approached me um, and gave me his number. He asked me to call, but it took me a couple weeks to call him because I was just like, nah. And actually, I had just got there talking to somebody, so I really wasn't trying to talk to nobody for real. But I was just like, oh, whatever. But I wouldn't call him for a while, and then people were, oh, man, he really talking about you. He really talking about you. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, let me see what he talking about. So I called him, and when I called him and talked to him and stuff like that, we kicked it off really good. We was having some good conversations. They were some deep conversations, you know, and he came off as a man of God and things of that nature. Not saying that he isn't, but that's how he came off to me. And we kicked it off really good, and we dated for a while and went out and just had a whole lot of fun. So I popped up pregnant. So that's how we met.
So you all met during some karaoke, some singing. And you all charmed each other and singing. Yeah. It's like the closer I get to you for real. Okay, so y'all had some good conversation, and then supposed to be in church and everything. So what? Let me ask. Okay, so these were the qualities that you would say that drew you to him.
Yes, and what really drew me to him, because he is a gentleman. You know, he was chivalry wasn't there with him. He's charming. He always open the doors for me. He wouldn't let me get out the car without him opening doors when we go somewhere and stuff like that. And he was polite to me in the beginning, you know. So he was very cool, and you know, I mean, I didn't have a problem with him in the beginning when we first started dating. So the qualities that I was looking for out of a person, he possessed them from the natural eye.
Okay, so you found out. So you found out later. What qualities did you think in the beginning that he had that you found out was not what you thought?
I thought he was gonna always be a gentleman to me. I thought he was gonna always, you know, be charming, be nice and loving. The way that he was putting off caring and being this gentleman and being the person that he showed me in the beginning. And it all, like, it flipped the whole switch after I got pregnant. And mind you, I got pregnant before we got married. So that kind of changed the whole entire relationship. And it changed the attitude. And I understand now why, but it changed the attitude of us. It changed him and I at the same time. Because we both were in ministry. We both were, you know, active in church, and we both were doing this. But the sin, when you do stuff in the dark, eventually it comes to the light. And so that thing that was in the dark was us having sex before marriage. It came out, and the result of it is I got pregnant. Now, the whole time I've never, you know, had anything as far as having a baby. So when I got pregnant, I'm just like, oh my, this is not. And I'm in my mid-20s. And I'm just like, what in the foolishness is this?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And all these chances I done took, and I ain't never popped up pregnant, thank God. You know, but I popped up pregnant. And so it's like, no, you gotta have an abortion. You gotta do this. You can't. I was like, well, what's the problem? You know, I'm not gonna abort this child. You know, so that was our biggest issue. And then it was like I'm just speaking for him, and it's just like for him, it was like I was forcing him to bring a child in the world. And then from my mind, I'm just like, the doctor told me I couldn't have no kids, and then now that I'm pregnant, you want me to abort? No, I'm not doing it.
So did you think that being with someone that was supposedly a man of God, were you thinking that it should have been handled in a different way? What was your mindset with having someone that you thought was going to be there for you, but then it wound up being different in that sense.
I'm glad you asked that because in my mind, like you just said, thinking that he's a man of God, I thought that he would stand up to the plate and say something as what I would think. He would say like, okay, well, let's get married since we finna have this baby. He didn't have any kids, I didn't have any kids, and we were both, you know, a man of God, a woman of God, and you know, we supposedly believe the same things, but it didn't happen that way. So it put a wedge in between us because now, all of a sudden, now that I'm pregnant, now religion and now the churches and things of that nature is fit to control or dictate our lifestyle or our life, what we got going on. So
So,
it played a big part, and I thought that he would, because I suggested in the beginning when I got pregnant, I said, well, why don't we just get married? Because in my mind, I'm like, everything going good, you cool, we cool. Well, let's just get married. And the first thing that really broke me was, I can't marry you. You're not gonna convert to my religion, and that hurt me more than anything because I'm just like, are you serious right now?
so you
So
were you were confronted with religion, but not how would I say, the commandments had nothing to do with it.
right,
And so you felt like you were bamboozled in a sense, that you thought this person was a stand up. You thought that they were going to be there. You all both had consensual sex outside of the marriage union, but now this has transpired where there's a baby involved, and so you thought that possibly okay, this was going to since you all had been together, that this was maybe going to lead into a marriage that was going to be happy,
right.
and it did not turn out that way.
It did not turn out that way, and so from the time that I was pregnant until the time we got married, we actually didn't really date. We were in, well, from the time for the first few months, you know, he was trying to get me to abort. But after he realized that I wasn't aborting the child, he finally just gave in. He would still come to the appointments with me. He was there for every appointment, every doctor's appointment. He was there, but I didn't, you know, conversate with him. I didn't talk to him. And then when we finally released, I think I was like 5 or 6 months. When we finally released to the family that I was pregnant, um, I, that was my first time meeting his parents, and we had been together for almost, I want to say a year, close to a year. I want to say close to a year. It wasn't a full year, but we had been together, and I met his parents. I was a few months down the road, and we gave them, I think it was a holiday, because we gave a present with the ultrasound in it, and that's how I was able to meet his parents for the first time. And then after that, you know, I made sure I kept conversation with his mom. I would go over there and see her the bigger I got and stuff like that. So she would know me and I would know her, and we'll be around the baby. You know, and the baby can hear her voice or whatever the case may be while I was carrying. And after I had my son, um, we still didn't date. He would come and get him. We were back and forth and things like that. We was messing around every once in a while. Don't get me wrong, but we wasn't in a relationship. So my son was around 5 or 6 months. I had moved into another place, and he just came. And this is how am I moving too fast? Because
No,
I
no,
was
go
just
ahead.
going to
Go.
introduce how we ended up engaged and ended up getting married. So he came to my place sweaty and all this other stuff, and I was just like, I'm not gonna fool with you. And so a couple of days later, I guess he decided in his mind that he wanted to propose to me and go ahead and put our family together to kind of keep us together. So he came over, he was dressed up and everything, and he asked me to go somewhere with him. I was just like, why? You know? So he took me to a nice little area. It was like downtown St. Louis where they had water fountains and all this. It was actually very nice how he proposed. He got down, he sang to me, which serenaded me because I like his voice. And then he sang to me, sung a song. I was just sitting there crying. He proposed to me. And it took me about a good 3 minutes. And he looked at me. He said, "You going to leave me down here? You going to answer what?" And I finally said yes. So after a while, when, I asked him, I was like, "Why did you, what was the reason why?" He was like, because it's our son. And so that decision, a couple months after that, we ended up getting married. But we didn't have a traditional wedding because his church wouldn't approve of our marriage because I didn't convert over to their religion. And I wouldn't say my church wouldn't approve of it because my pastor at the time did ask why we couldn't get married. And, he kept bringing up the excuses of the church. So we ended up going to somebody private who was ordained and got married. And I moved in with him, and I actually had just bought a house. And my sister and my sister-in-law ended up moving in the house, taking care of the house, and I stayed with him. But thank God I had that house because 3 months after we got married, we separated.
So 3 months of living together, and then you separate. So how long were you all married?
Legally, we were married. Okay, oh Lord, the timing is just so much because it goes into husbancy at the same time. So legally, we were married for a year and a half.
Okay.
No, actually 2 years and 4 months legally.
Okay. So let me ask, how did this experience and the things that you went through what did you get out of this positively and negatively? How did it affect you? What things would you say in short that caused the demise of the marriage? And what can you take from it? What did you take from it then and now?
Then I took, at the time, then I didn't think nothing positive. Everything was negative. From the time I got pregnant, but beforehand everything was perfect, like that fairy tale, pretty much that we were talking about in the beginning. Everything was perfect, everything was going good, and I was like, okay, this is a good dude. He gonna treat me right and stuff like that. But I've seen a side that I will never want to see because the controlling and trying to manipulate religion and pretty much not. I stood up for what I believe. He stood up for what we believe, and we were two strong-headed people standing up for what we believe, and we were always bumping heads. But I'm not going to say that he's not a good person. I'm not going to say that he's a bad man because he's not. But at the same time, he made sure that I felt the effects of me not being in the marriage with him because it felt like to me always torture.
Mm.
But when I had to talk to me when I moved to Georgia about him, and I really truly believe he was in love with me, and I moved on too quick for him.
So that basically, okay. So one thing I want to mention is you all were unequally yoked.
Yes, we were.
Unequally yoked. One you were going in one belief, he was in another belief, and so that was one problem. Another thing is that the control. You say you felt he was controlling, and that's something that people definitely have to pay attention to. before marriage, and especially hopefully before the marriage, because if you all were dealing with some control issues before, then it's gonna be 10 times magnified after
Right.
you say I do. One thing that and I tell women that, be careful. Just because you are a Christian doesn't mean that that person you going to church with is the person that you should marry. Okay,
Exactly. You right about that,
so
honey.
you have to be careful and ask God, God, is this the person that you would have for me? Because 50% of all Christian marriages, just like the world, end up in divorce.
Yep.
And a lot of it is the same issues that are going on, in the world, whether it's infidelity, whether it's abuse. When again, abuse comes in different forms. You have the spiritual abuse, manipulating. You have financial abuse. You have emotional abuse. You have verbal abuse. There are so many different forms of abuse, and this takes place in the church as well as outside of the church. And so therefore, women and men, be careful, that when you are marrying someone, make sure, I always tell people, please get premarital counseling from a good premarital counselor. Not somebody that's just gonna say, okay, I gave y'all a couple of sessions and then y'all going about your business. You want to spend some time getting to someone who can ask those hard questions that you may not be addressing directly. Because oftentimes when you dating someone, we have these rose-colored glasses on, and we see what we want to see, and then we also see things and don't see certain things as well. And so we need God to show, Lord, reveal to me who this person is. And Lord, reveal to me, is this the person that you would have for me to be with? And it's so important to allow God to be the one to say, hey, this is a green light, or no, this is not what I have for you. Because oftentimes we invest in the wrong relationship when we need to ask God, is this the investment that you would have for me to make? We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll still be with Ieisha Gilliam. This time, I'm running out of time, but we're gonna scan through Husband C. But but we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Amen.
He take the world for the good things found. If she is bad, he can't see it. She can do no wrong. Turn his back on his best friend, he puts her down. When a man loves a woman, spend his very last dime trying to hold on to what he needs. He'd give up all his comforts, sleep out in the rain,
And that's When a Man Loves a Woman by Michael Bolton. And oftentimes we see movies and we see, oh, the romance and everyone's in love, and especially around the holidays. But the reality of it is that marriage takes work. Relationships take work. And when God brings two people together, then it's still going to take work, but you need Christ in the center of that relationship in order for it to survive. And when you have two people, it's not just giving 50-50, it's 100-100. You're giving your all of yourself, and that person should be giving all of themselves. And so therefore, when you two are doing that and you have Christ in the center, then you have a good foundation. That foundation has to be Christ centered. Going to church, ladies, don't just pick somebody just because they at church. Don't just pick somebody because they look good. Don't just pick somebody because they got money. Okay, gold digger, whether you're a man or a gigolo, whatever the case may be, you need to make sure that this is the person that God has for you. Okay, because we often talk about when you're dealing with narcissists and the masks that they wear, and they're in camouflage. All right, they like chameleons. They blend in with their environment. They're charming. They're give you the best thing since chocolate cake. But the thing is that is this the person who God has for you? I want to run through husband C because we're at an hour already.
Take a whole episode for him.
Right. So husband C, I want to just run through husband C. Husband C, how did you two meet and what drew you to him?
Well, it's our story of how we met. We met at the doctor's office. We met at the doctor's office. Actually, I was a hairdresser, like I mentioned before, and I was at the shop. And one of my clients' friends, she had called me and asked me if I was busy and if I can go to the doctor down the street from the shop and pick up her medicine. I said, yeah, I'll do that. And went there, sitting waiting on them to give me the medicine. They taking forever. And then person number 3 walks in the door. And I looked at him and said, So I was like, oh, okay. So he got up there and started talking to him or whatever the case may be. And he sat on the other side of the room. And then I'm sitting there, and then like 15 minutes after they didn't call her name, our friend's name, I went to the window and I was like, hey, is it going to be any longer? You know, I got an appointment and blah, 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 blah. And she was like, yeah, I forgot. And I'll be with you in a minute. Give us around 15 minutes. I said, okay. And when I turned around, he moved up and sat where I was sitting. So, and I'm looking at him like, why are you sitting close to me now? You were just on the other side of the room. So, he saw I had a smock on, one of those smocks that beauticians wear. And I had one of those on. He was like, you do hair? I was like, yes. And he was like, you know how to do these? He had dreadlocks. And I was like, yeah, I actually do. And I was like, I got some pictures, and I showed him some pictures. Then I gave him one of my cards, and I was like, yeah, just call me in. He was like, okay, I'm setting an appointment. I was like, okay. So about an hour later, he come texting me, come out, and he didn't say he wanted to set an appointment. He come texting me, where your boo? And I started laughing. And I was like, what boo? But mind you, at the time, I was still married to husband number D. So,
Right.
but me and husband number D had been separated for a few months. But like I said earlier, I moved on too fast, you know, and I did. I didn't give myself time to heal from nothing, you know, and I just wanted to move on with the next one and keep on rolling. But anyway, that's how we ended up meeting.
So do you think when you met what would be husband C, do you think that you had moved on to husband C to try to get over husband B, or that wasn't in your mind?
Yes, I did. I did try to move on. That's one of the reasons that's one of the reasons why I tried to move on and try to have fun at the same time. And, you know, I was there in church, but I wasn't, my relationship with God was rocky. You get what I'm saying? I'm going through the conversion stage where, okay, he's stripping some stuff off me, but at the same time, I'm just like, I was playing both sides of the fence, if you want to put it like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I was gray. I wasn't either black or white. I was playing both sides of the fence.
So what qualities do you think that you knew about or you thought you knew about husband C, and where you at? I would say where are you at today with the qualities from husband C?
Honestly speaking, you know, the qualities that I saw in her to see was the looks. And like you mentioned, it ain't all about the looks. The looks will fool you. You know, because when they act the fool, they turn real ugly. You know, so I mean, my husband is real good looking, you know, and as far as a street look, and he was different from, and he reminded me of a childhood boyfriends, because when I was a teenager and stuff like that, I always went for the thuggish type. I always went for, you know, the rough edge type boys. And that's how he came to me. And I guess it brought like a childhood memory or a teenage memory. But then after being with him, I was just like, that's not who I am no more.
Hmm.
So, you know? So it changed the whole perspective. But the looks more than anything else caught my attention with him.
So, ladies, you better pay attention. Everything that shines don't mean it's going to stay shiny. And that goes for men too. Hello, men. That's right. So how did it affect you with husband C? How has it affected you positively and or negatively?
I'm gonna start with the negative side. The negative side, it affected me. It affected relationships that I've had with people. It affected my family. It affected my finances. It affected my health. It affected my emotions. It affected a lot of things for me, because everything played a part in everything. My finances played a part, because it was like I had an adult child. It played a lot. It played a whole lot into my finances. Played a lot into my businesses that I had, where I had to stop doing hair because of jealousy. I had to close down, stop doing what I love to do, which is I do love to do hair. I had to stop doing that. I had to stop doing a whole lot of stuff. I slowed down in ministry. It stopped my ministry. It stopped a lot of stuff, because I was spending too much time, you know, in the church. It changed my character, because once you start getting hurt over and over again in all of those areas, you're no longer that person that you was when you first met them. So you start changing, and you start focusing on their character and how to maneuver your life around them. So to put it in plain, I lowered my standards to fit his insecurity.
So, do you think that it caused you to have trust issues with him, and where you at with trust right now when it comes to men in relationships?
Absolutely. I mean, as far as men in relationships, I mean, as far as trusting him, it caused a lot of issues, because I was trusting the word at first, but now I'm trusting your actions. I'm going off your actions. What you do is what will have me to distinguish or determine how I would handle you, or how I would deal with you in that moment. Whether you're drunk at that moment, I know how to deal with you then. Whether you're mad, I know how to deal with you then. Whether you start talking crazy or your friends come over, I know how to deal with you then. So it changes your character in that. But in the positive side of it, in the positive side, I've learned not to be so naive. I learned how to stand my ground. I learned how to stand up for myself. I had to relearn how to love myself. I had to learn a whole lot being in this relationship with husband C, because I had got so broken down to where I had nobody to depend on, family, friends, nobody to depend on but God. And when he told me that, he was used to break me so I can trust in nobody but God to build me back up, that's what he was doing to me.
Mm.
And when I finally realized that and took heed to the word that he has given me, then I had to stand up. I had to take a stand, because if I didn't, I was going to die. And not just die spiritually, because I almost died spiritually. I almost died physically. I died emotionally. So if I wouldn't take a stand and with the Lord's strength to give me strength to get back on my feet and stand for what I know, stand for what I believe, stand for what I preach about, stand for what I read about. If I didn't take a stand, I was going to die. And eventually I was going to die in the natural, because when you're stressed out, when you're when you're exhausted, when you're going through so much, that takes a toll on your body, that takes a toll on your health, that takes a toll on your mental health. And when stuff like that controls you and you have no control over it and it controls you, there's a problem.
Right. So you have you learned a lesson. That one of the lessons that you learned from husband C is to stand up for yourself and to trust in God. Would you say? And God has given you strength throughout all these relationships to, what would you say, all these relationships have helped you to be who you are today, would you say? Or what would you say about all three of these relationships? What common lesson have you learned out of these three?
Take people for who they are.
Mm. Wow.
And in the beginning, stop talking so much.
Wow.
It tells us to be quick to listen and slow to speak. Stop talking so much. Evaluate your situation. And not saying you might have to do some background checks on people. I don't know about that. Not in 2024.
Right.
Stop, pay attention to them, watch their characters. Don't give in so easy. If you're on a journey of celibacy, keep that. Because once they take it, when spiritual attachments come from fluid to blood, that's a covenant.
Right.
When you open your legs, or when you let somebody, when you have sex with somebody, that the spirits attach itself. A prime example. I'm gonna give you this example, and it's a personal example. And I haven't told many people this, but I'm going to share it with you so you can get an example. Husband C is an alcoholic. Okay. But the most time he wanted to have sex is after he has drank all night or while he's been drinking. And he really wants to have a lot of sex. And I'm being transparent. So every time we had sex after he was drunk or whatever the case may be, I'm not a drinker. I don't drink. And every time we would have sex, it seemed like the spirit. That's why they had to call most of the places where you pick up alcohol spirits, spirit places, spirit winery, or whatever the case may be. Those spirits attach themselves to you when you have sex. So when we get done having sex, I will feel so low, like it was like I was cheating on my husband with a stranger every time we have sex.
Wow.
Because the spirit that he was carrying at that time down, he released it into me. And I'm good. Now I'm feeling down. And I had to pray. I was like, Lord, why am I doing this? Why do I feel like this? And every time, so I'm like, we have to, in my mind, I'm just like, and I told him this, I was like, we have to be sober. I can't feel like this every time we have sex. And I feel so disgusted because you're having sex with me and you're drunk and you're doing this. But then when you get done getting yours off, I'm taking all of that in and I'm holding it in until it releases itself. And sometimes with women, sperm stays in the woman's body for days.
Right.
So when the spirits attach themselves to you, you wonder why you're so depressed or down or feeling the way that they actually feel in the inside. And you're a positive person, you're a happy person. But after that encounter, you start feeling the effects of their spirit.
Right. Wow.
So it took a whole lot out of me. And so that caused the problem, especially in our sexual life, because when and I think I don't know if I'm getting too religious or whatever the case may be, but this is really deep, and if people don't pay attention to it, you will wonder, you have to think about, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? What is injecting your body? It could be food, it could be people's surroundings or whatever the case may be. So with that, all of this stuff that attached itself to me through him, it caused me to go through surgery from pre-cancer, all of this stuff.
Wow. One thing that is important for especially believers to understand is oftentimes you have a lot of married people quote the verse about a marriage bed is undefiled, but the thing is, you defile it by what you bring into it.
Yes.
And
don't use the words if you don't know how to use them.
Exactly. Rather, it's pornography that defiles the marriage bed. Infidelity defiles the marriage bed. Anything that, even abuse, defiles the marriage bed. There are many things that can defile the marriage bed. And so when you talk about the spirits that were attached, it was a transfer of spirits. It's just like in the Bible, I can't remember the name of the brothers, but they were trying to cast out these demons, and the demons actually jumped onto them. All right. And so that can happen when Jesus cast out the demon of the man that was cutting himself in the tomb and everything. And they asked, could they go into the pigs? And so the pigs jumped off the cliff or whatever. So basically you had these spirits that were transferring on from him to you. And then you're not knowing what to do about it until these spirits, jumped off into something else. So
Right.
it messes with you spiritually, emotionally, physically, and you have and the thing is, you have been through, when it comes to abuse, these relationships, you dealt with physical abuse, you dealt with verbal abuse, you dealt with financial abuse, you dealt with spiritual abuse and neglect, you dealt with isolation from friends and family, you dealt with spirit of control and domination, you dealt with the failure of protection that you should have had in these in the marriage. And so it causes like a domino effect. So then you wind up, not knowing who you are. You're trying to compromise your standards in order to please somebody else's to make them feel fulfilled, when that person is not giving you that same sense of care. And so you lose a piece of yourself. So each time that you wind up being married to someone and that marriage didn't work, you were, it was like chipping at you, losing a piece of yourself. And so now it's like, okay, where are you at now? Have you found yourself, or are you finding yourself? Where do you feel that God has you right now?
So right now, the hardest thing, just to go back, the hardest thing is to find yourself when you find yourself in your marriage and realize, when you go back to yourself, you're like, I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like doing this. No, that's not my color. No, that's not this. I want to be treated like this. That's not how I want to be loved. This is not my love language. When you realize that this is who you are, who God has taught you to be in this manner, it is hard to get a person that you're with to understand the new you. Like I said in the beginning, a person changes. But when God was dealing with me as far as who I am and what I'm supposed to be and my purpose in life, the characters that I was operating in the beginning of this marriage was not my character. I was operating in a character that he wanted me to be in, and it caused a conflict between my true character and the false character that he wanted me to be. Mm-hmm. Because he said, don't do this, I didn't do it, but I really like doing this. Mm-hmm. Because he said, just for instance, he said, don't do her. I really like doing, and this is a narcissistic trait. Don't do her no more. I don't like you doing this client her. I don't like you doing this client her. So to the point where I stopped doing her. Now I don't do her no more, but you want me to do your hair and nobody else's. How's that fair to me? When I really love doing her, but you don't want me to do. Now I don't want to do no. If I can't do nobody hair, I'm not doing yours either. But it still puts me in a place to where I still have to do it because that's what he wanted me to do. But my love is to beautify people. But then, and as far as don't dress like this, but I like dressing like this. But since you want me to dress like this, then I will dress like this. But then when I dress like this, I feel like I'm 106 years old. Mm-hmm. and that's not my character. Mm-hmm. That's not who I am. Mm-hmm. That's not how I was designed, in this moment. So the relationship, it changes you, and then God shows you who you are called to be. But they're not ready to see who God has called you to be because they're used to controlling you, or the old you, I should say.
So where do you think God, when it comes to this particular book with this particular section for its marriage, where do you think God wants you to let others know about marriage?
Seek him first. Seek him first in all that you do, not just marriage relationships, in relationships, period. Pray and ask God to make sure that ordained people for the season or a lifetime come into your life. Amen. Because if not, those people that you attach yourself to, whether it's in a marriage or a relationship, they either going to affect it positively or they're going to affect them negatively. But either way, you have to pray. And then you have to pray, then listen. Because just because they cool the first couple of times you encounter them does not mean that this is the person that's supposed to be in your life. Because if they don't boost you, or if they don't help encourage you, or they don't grow you, they don't assist you, or whatever the case may be, they not pushing you towards a goal for kingdom building or for a purpose. They not for you. They just wasting time. And in this season in my life, I ain't got time to waste time. If you can't build me up, and if I can't build you up, I'm good. Just say hi and bye.
And that is important, is whoever God sends to you, that person is going to move you towards him, not away from him. That person is going to support you, not put you down, not belittle you, not devalue you, not sabotage you. That person should be your biggest cheerleader. Even when you're talking about the act of intimacy, it should be as you're one in Christ, because God is the one that created the act of intimacy. And so therefore the two become one. So that means whatever spirits or whatever that person is dealing with, you're also taking that in and dealing with it as well. Many people have found themselves in a depressed state and not wondering what is going on with them in their minds or spiritually, and it's because of the people that they are attached to, what we often call those soul ties. And if you are one that has a soul tie, God is the only one that can break it. We don't want to go into other relationships, and I know, Aisha, you can speak on this, not, going to other relationships, and you haven't even, settled the old one, and then you're going into another one, and then you're going into another one, and then you're taking those unresolved issues into the next one. And oftentimes that person that you wind up with is taking unresolved issues from their past relationships and then and bringing them into their, so you got a combined combustion of energy just going nowhere, and
let me add this too, Dr. Rich. You be sure that you can receive constructive criticism. And your true friends can be with you, and you take the correction. Because if they can't be honest with you,
yes,
there's no need to. I'm not finished sugarcoating with you.
Right.
It's just like me and you. I expect you to tell me the truth when I'm wrong, or if I say something.
And vice versa. Yes.
That's true love, because I don't want to see you fail, and you don't want to see me fail. So if I can't be honest with my friend or a person who proclaims, that's why people are so quick to use a friend, or this my man, this my boo, this my friend, whatever. Y'all so quick to use these words. But then the friend ain't gonna let you fail, ain't gonna let you fall, and like gonna push you towards God. And all the other stuff is irrelevant. But if you see me getting out of order, please tell me.
And it's like what the Bible says, iron sharpens iron.
Exactly.
And so we have to sharpen each other. And sometimes, we can see people hurting, people falling, people needing help, and we don't say anything. And that has to stop, because when we actually care for someone, then we be there for that person. We stand up for that person. We encourage that person. We want them to be their best. And you should be able, especially when you're either planning on getting married or you're married, the person that you should be able to be honest with is the person that you say I do to.
Right. And if you have to go outside of your marriage to have a heartfelt conversation with somebody because you're afraid, and that was me, and I'm speaking from experience, because I couldn't talk to husband C. I couldn't let him know my real feelings, and I couldn't be myself with him because of how he acted, or what he was going to say, or how he felt, or whatever the case may be. And if you can't be that best friend to that person, that's not for you. If every time you say something, you tell them your truth or how you feel, that's not the person for you. So be sure, because marriage is a fight, and just jumping in it, it's even worse than getting a divorce. Yes. Even though you're free, but at the same time, you got to go through heartache. You got to go through, trying to separate from this person. You still got some attachments, and stuff like that. It's hard.
It is, and it's better to seek God's counsel before than have to worry about the heartbreak after. And that is so important. And again, many of us have made mistakes, whether it was in dating relationships or dating and marriage relationships. But the one who can restore, and the one who does restore, is Jesus. And no matter how far you've fallen, just like when Jesus talked to the woman at the well and he told her about her husbands, or the woman that was in the act, calling the act of adultery, or whatever, the thief on the cross, or whatever it is that you may have made a mistake doing, God is the one that can help you. He's the one that reaches out and says, come to me. We just have to be willing to listen. I know times when I did not want to listen. I was not asking God anything. I wanted what I wanted, and I thought I wanted to have that. But I'm so glad that he saved me from myself.
Yes, I was overheated. A lot of the relationships, he told me no. More than once he told me no, and I heard it clear.
Right.
And with it anyways, because I trusted, I ain't even gonna say I trusted the person. I was scared. I was scared in one relationship, and the other one was like, no, that ain't it. You know what I'm saying? Told me that I was equally yoked in another relationship. But I went for it anyway. And I shouldn't have. And now you have to reap the benefits of your consequences, your actions.
Right, right. But you know what? The good thing is that despite it all, God uses everything that we go through to help someone else. And so with your story, others can say, you know what, I can relate. Others can say, you know what, I've learned something, I'm going to make a different choice. I'm going to listen to God. Or, we learn, and we learn by the testimonies of others. We support each other by our testimonies, by our trials, by our errors, by the things that we've done wrong, and the mistakes that we've made. There's no person that hasn't made a mistake. As King David, when he did what he did with Bathsheba, or, so many different people, and God still used these individuals, imperfect people as we all are. God can still use us, and use us still with all our mess, and as they say, turn it into a message. And so that's what Ieisha has done. She has turned the trials in her life, the messes in her life, all the things that she's gone through, and she's been obedient to God and has turned it into a message, a testimony, and she is helping other people to know that what God has brought her through, He will do the same for them. And I want to just thank Ieisha. We went way past our time, but that's okay. I knew that was going to happen. But I want to thank Ieisha for coming on this podcast and sharing her book. Again, the book is named Closing Doors for a Purpose. Closing Doors for a Purpose by Ieisha Gilliam. It's spelled like William with exception of a G, Gilliam. And you can get it at lulu.com, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, Amazon.com. And we haven't even, she has other chapters in this book that we haven't even gotten a chance to get into. But, I pray that you all will go get the book. It's a blessed book, and I believe that you will be blessed, touched, and inspired by her story. And I thank her for, listening to the Holy Spirit to share her testimony, to share her story. Is there anything that you want to say before we end today's podcast?
Yes, just to stay encouraged. Your greatest help, is the hearing the voice of God.
Yes.
Just be encouraged. And if you need help, there's help out there. Seek it.
Yes, yes.
And if the normal people that surround you are not helping you, seek it. You got to move in silence sometimes. So go seek some help if you need help. If you're being abused, if you're feeling, alone, if you're feeling depressed or whatever the case may be, there's nothing wrong with seeking help. But most of all, put God first. Put God first, and be encouraged. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Amen. And speaking of help, I want to give you all the information to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and that is, their website is www.thehotline.org, www.thehotline.org. You can also call 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. TTY callers 1-800-787-3224. And you can also text the word START to 88788. Text the word START to 88788. Veterans, if you are going through anything, contemplating suicide or anything of that nature, we're still here. Can you hear me right now? I think I'm not sure if she can hear. Okay. If you're veterans, if you are contemplating suicide or anything, please don't take your life. There's someone that can talk to you. Call 1-800-827-1000, 1-800-827-1000. 1000, and they will direct you to a counselor if you need help. There's nothing wrong with going to counseling. We have to make sure that we tell people that it is okay to go get the help that you need. You don't want to be one of the ones that hurt people, but you can get help and you are not alone. Again, I want to thank Ieisha Gilliam for coming on today. And this is Dr. K.O. Rich with Narc Abuse No More, helping you to admit what you feel in order to heal from the effects of narcissistic abuse. Until next time.